Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette, and on this episode, we get to meet filmmaker, director, writer, Azazel Jacobs. Now, full disclosure, as you'll be able to ascertain pretty early on, this chat is actually recorded from the late spring, and through life things and other deadlines and episodes with more pressing projects that were kind of coming out around the time that we recorded, this episode just kept getting pushed, and I apologize to Azazel and everyone who helped me arrange this conversation that it took so long, but it's a really good conversation, and I was really happy that he came on to chat, so I still want to share it. We actually recorded, like I said, in late spring, and it was already kind of catch up because he was coming off of a pretty eventful year or so. He had released his last film, His Three Daughters, in 2024, starring Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen, and it's really beautiful. You should go check it out. And it had already won some awards, including the Robert Altman Award at the Indie Spirit Awards earlier this year. And it was sort of already a catch-up talk, so in that sense, I think it's okay that it's taken a little while to come back and post this episode. But again, sorry to Azazel if he ever hears this, and to anyone who helped me set this up, because I really am grateful that I get to talk to magnificent and talented and generous and candid artists like Azazel Jacobs. And in this chat, we talk a lot about His Three Daughters. If you haven't seen it, there are some spoilers. Again, it's a really beautiful film, so please go check that out. We talk about what it was like for him to work with these three titanic actresses who all perform beautifully in this film, as well as J.O. Sanders, who plays their father. We talk about his early love of film and the sort of films and performances that stuck with him as he was discovering his artistic voice, and much, 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 much more. So again, sorry for the delay. My next episode will also be playing a little catch-up. You'll see that in a little bit. But please, thank you for listening. I'm very happy that this happened. This is me meeting Azazel Jacobs. For a little bit. I know I'm catching you kind of post everything, because you had quite a last year, professionally speaking, with your film His Three Daughters, which came out last year. It's on Netflix. It's very, very watchable. For people who haven't seen it yet, go watch it. But it got some, very good buzz. It got award season light shined on it. So congratulations on all that. And I wanted to have a chance to hang out with you and talk about the film a little bit, because right when I watched it, I was like, yeah, I need to invite him on. But
Thank
since you're welcome, but since, like I said, this is kind of post all of that. I guess I'm curious, like, what you've even been up to, like what do you even do sort of in the wake of something like all of that, now that award season is done and, PR is done, and you're kind of just on the other side of it now?
Well, I mean, even while it was all going on, I'm always working in some way. It's been so many years of doing this, so I do have a routine, even when things are kind of the schedule is shifting all the time, of just constantly writing down ideas or thinking about or reading things or really watching movies and thinking about things that I'm going through and and the way that I've learned how to process them, despite just kind of raising questions and holding on to them and trying to just imagine them to step out of them. And films have been a big part of the biggest part of my life for so long. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like it ever stopped, even though maybe things shifted and schedule, it brought me to places and brought me to people that I'm still in a lot of ways processing. It was by far out of everything that I've made, the film reached many, many, many times more than amount of people than previous work, and it also connected with a way more amount of people. So all that is encouraging in a lot of ways. It's
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just what the film is about, in terms of just trying to deal with letting go or understanding parents. In my case, my parents are both still alive, but elderly, and this is something that's been very much in the forefront of my mind for a long time, but
Yeah.
especially now, um, that feels no longer lonely in that way. You know, I understand that this is something I heard from so many people that talked to me about what they were going through and how they connected to it. So that
Yeah.
sense of it doesn't make it. I wouldn't say that I don't feel like alone during times where I feel like only I could really understand what this is feeling like to me. I just definitely get the sense of the human process in a different way.
Mm.
And it's also really, really nice. It's very encouraging too. So there's this sense of um, connection that I can't say that I could pursue after, like in the same way, like, oh, I want it. But I do know that where that film came from was really me just trying to be very honest to myself about something and to kind of have the amount of control I had in terms of telling it that I'm once again trying to pursue in a similar way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good lessons that I'm walking away with and thinking about how to not so much repeat them, but just going to continue with them and follow that path forward.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that His Three Daughters for you was kind of the writing of it or the telling of the specific story? Was it sort of anticipatory for you, like kind of to try and see some things from a different light that you expect to have to, contend with later on in life?
Oh, for sure. I mean, no, it's more that film really came from not only experiences with either with the stuff that I was going through, I have been going through with my own parents, but also going through with other loved ones that have passed, and
Mm-hmm.
also, but also a lot of the fears and hopes that came with that. So um, I find some of it as time has gone on to be my experience and also really not my experience. So there's places where I really disconnect in terms of like, oh, how the sisters were, and just to kind of I guess say something that I said throughout promoting is that what began was me just writing these different feelings that I was having as I was learning how to become a caretaker, and
Mm-hmm.
then realizing that if I separate them into three different people, that I could kind of more understand these conflicts that were happening within myself, and then thinking of them as siblings
Mm.
also kind of gave me that connection of being like, oh, it's all coming from the same household, it's all coming from the same family.
Yeah.
So there's I still find myself being each one of those sisters, uh, and I still sometimes find myself saying lines or hearing lines as I'm dealing with doctors or nurses that are surprisingly similar to ones that I wrote.
Mm.
Um, but the thing more that I'm taking away from it is just the film itself was came out of such a like a desire of intention where I just didn't come up so much with any kind of plan B if this doesn't work out, or if this actor says no, or if I can't get this location, or if I can't work with that person.
Yeah.
I just I never went to I didn't have much fear with a film, and I think that's something that I'm always trying to push past because it's so easy to, kind of from past experiences just to think, oh, maybe that's not going to work out. That's not going to work out. But
Yeah.
it was great to move forward in a way that I felt like I could control and actually turned out the way that I hoped it to do.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a couple things that I wanted to get into, but yeah, I mean, the film itself, from a production standpoint, is kind of a high wire act because it's, it depends upon mostly the three actresses, Carrie Coon, Elizabeth Olsen, Natasha Lyonne, telling this, pretty self-contained story. It's happening almost in real time, and it's happening it's almost a one setting, one location film because you've shot in a real apartment, correct?
I did.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, if any one of those pieces was missing or, not right, it would be on full display because it's, there's nothing really to hide behind in a film like this.
That's really true. But also, there was so much to take advantage of that, which,
Hmm.
because I think when you're going through kind of the, end of life situations, time works in in a different way.
Yeah.
So where you kind of have to usually, on many stories, address how time is, okay, this happened on Monday and then this happens on Wednesday. And this, um, while it's definitely happening within a few days,
Hmm.
how exactly we're jumping from one to the next, I didn't so much feel like I had to answer, uh, other than in an emotional way, because that's how time feels like it moves to me when you're in such extreme situations. It moves in its own way. So I had to adhere to something that was just more from the gut than
Hmm.
something so, structured that in many screenplays I've had to in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a film about a lot of things. It is a film about loss and grief. And I think it's, I mean, there's a lot of stories about grief, but I feel like there was something kind of unique about the angle of sort of, it's like they're like pre-grieving, right? Because all three of them know that the father, played by J.O. Sanders, is passing and they're kind of waiting. And I feel like that is sort of a territory that doesn't get explored that much, especially not so up close. I mean, there's a character who's in hospice care and is on basically the brink of death the entire film. I mean, the sound design of the film is so important. You hear the beeping, things like that. But I think that's also kind of what I mean when I say there's nothing to hide behind here. It's so upfront. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like oppressive or anything. I don't think it's an oppressive film or one that makes you feel like you're getting claustrophobia or anything, but yeah, it is. It's a very honest film about a really liminal space that I think so many people occupy and don't want to talk about very often.
Well, I was desperate to cling on to some examples of
Hmm.
why this felt like the way that it felt and why it felt as unnatural and as bizarre and as strange as it did and has. And I was able to. I thought of Tamara Jenkins' "The Savages,"
Hmm.
but I didn't have a lot to go on.
Yeah.
So it was in some ways that kind of opens there's a field like yes for this is such a common story, but instead of like dealing with love, and while this is dealing with love to a certain degree, this particular situation felt at least kind of, there's a lot of spaces that I could go to that felt like, yeah, familiar but not repetitive, or not like I was copying something.
Hmm.
um and it's interesting. It's like, yeah, it's a film about grief, but the for me, the making of this film was so joyful,
Yeah.
and then the writing of it was really joyful. The writing for people and those people saying yes, and then finding that location, and
Mm.
really, um, the walks to the set and walking through New York City, and then dealing with the city while we're shooting, and then walking and leaving. All that was great.
Yeah.
And I feel that that was very much as much part of the story, that this is a celebration of storytelling in this kind of very rudimentary way that, um, there's not that many bells and whistles.
Yeah.
There's only so much we could do. There's only so much lights we could do, and only so much, VFX that we're gonna do, because it's only gonna call for something to kind of just figure out where it's grounded, and stick
Mm.
with that.
Yeah. How quickly did you shoot it?
We shot over 17 days, which
Okay.
sounds like very quick. I guess it is, but it felt like enough time. I never
Yeah.
really felt rushed. All the equipment was there. The everything's practical in terms of like the yard is right down from that apartment. So
Right.
everything truly was there. So we were spending most of the time shooting. Once after that first couple of days, we knew how to light the place, and
Mm-hmm.
that meant that wherever we were moving, we kind of already had an understanding of where the sources of lights were coming from. Um, we had to work with the city and daylight, and so that we had certain hours that we weren't going to go throughout the night, which was one of those limitations that I thought was really good for not only for the apartment complex and the neighbors that were shooting in, but for the crew. Um, but it helped shape things. And I would say also we were shooting in this kind of wonderful window between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So people had who were willing to work on a film during that window were like more than likely, or let's hopefully they had made the money they needed for that year to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Were making choosing to do this in because there was a interest in it, and that definitely felt very much true on the set. This was a collection of people that had made a decision to spend these few weeks in between making a film in a different way than they had uh, the rest of the year
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah. Before we get back to the cast of the film, one more sort of thematic note I wanted to sort of pick out a little bit. The ending of the film, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, the ending of the film has J.O. Sanders' character kind of wake up and he has this beautiful monologue. It's a really warm scene. And then obviously it cuts to it not actually happening, right? It was sort of like a fantasy or some kind of vision or, some kind of scenario that didn't actually happen. And I know I was wading through some, reviews of the film, and I know that that was kind of a controversial plot point. But to me, it felt really of a piece with what the film was really about. Um, was there ever a version of the story for you where that didn't occur, or was that also integral for you?
It's integral. I thought of it because of I actually thought that I would be meeting up with that. I thought it'd be much more divisive than it turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely knew that film without it, and so that film it's a concept. Oh, you never
Mm-hmm.
go into the room. Like it's a very small independent movie um, without that scene. And for me, one of the exciting things is getting to that place where you can really push into a direction that I hadn't seen, that I felt like I definitely hadn't gone to before, where someone can face themselves and get a chance to both say the things that they've always wanted to say or feel like they need to say, but also really just being us the only ones that get to hear it. Um, it was a question, and it was something that I was worried about, in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
and a way that I didn't know if I could pull off, or if I'd pull off in a way that would really even work for myself. And so and because we were shooting the film in order, it
Mm.
was it was nice to have that to head to.
Yeah.
Feeling very confident about what we were getting throughout, and then going, okay, this is let's see how this works out. And also because of the way that it's set up, having to shoot just the logistics of somebody looking at themselves without doing kind of, VFX trickery
Mm-hmm.
meant that and because when we cut to him in his chair, all the equipment is working. So it meant that we had to figure out that end moment before we shot the monologue. So I just had to kind of figure out him looking at himself, shoot that
Mm.
end, and then go to the fantasy of him pushing it over and potentially breaking that heart machine, because we only had one of those. So it had to
Mm.
be shot after that. So there was like with just doing that, there was a commitment. Okay, we're going for this.
Right.
Once that thing got pushed over, once that's broken, we're going for this. We're going for this. And there was a certain type of um, freedom that was built into that shooting that particular scene in terms of blocking that I wanted to explore.
Hmm.
I've been I recently had to go back to uh, my college shooting purchase to show the film, and it just brought back walking through those classrooms. So that's where I first kind of got really excited and amazed at this push and pull that film was able to do between fantasy and reality, and how to address both those things. And so
Yeah.
it's a long time obsession that was able to work itself into the end of this scene, end of this film. Um, that it just excited me. I would say your question was there a time when I thought about without it? There was one screening, one work in progress screening that I did that that scene was, I guess, about 3 or 4 minutes, almost 4 minutes longer.
Mm.
And I showed it to close friends and family. No family, just close friends, fellow directors, people that I wanted to hear about, maybe about 20 people. And there were a few people that I really love as, not only as their films as well, that were really felt strongly that it wasn't working, and that scene should be cut out. And then there were some people that were just as passionate that it should be in.
Mm.
Um, it was really clear what side I fell on in terms of like whether it's been cut out, but I also knew what was being said was that it wasn't working at that point.
Yeah.
And so that made me reapproach just exactly how I can make sure that if it's gonna not work for people, at least make sure that it works for me. And
Hmm.
that was the only scene that I mostly just spent the room by myself cutting. And then in that case, I brought my wife and fellow filmmaker Diaz, who's a producer on the film, in on the edit with me, and we just worked on that scene together, frame by frame by frame, just saying, okay, every second of this counts, and just make sure that you can stand behind every second of it.
Yeah. I always appreciate, I mean, I haven't seen the film since I saw it in the fall, but in my memory anyway, I appreciated that really that kind of fantasy moment, that right before death kind of moment, where, like you say, you get to say all the things you always wanted to say or hear the things you wanted to hear. That could just as easily be any of their fantasies, right? Sort of, because we hear a lot of stories about when someone passes, what we wish we could say to them, but they're gone. And I feel like it's really intriguing to think about, well, what do they want to say to us, or what would they say to us, if they could? Sort of just
Yeah.
an interesting
Well,
inversion.
I also, on the early draft of the script, once I got there, I really had this idea of playing it so that it could also be just the three sisters' collective fantasy
Right.
of what they're, and while I felt like I had to clarify it for just the script version of being like, this was the dad's fantasy, just so that everybody, the crew, understood how this was working. When I did, travel with the film and people would interpret that way, like
Hmm.
I'm all for that. I think of it as a collective fantasy. If anything, I think of it more as the audience's collective fantasy than
Mm.
maybe anybody of the families. It definitely was mine.
Yeah. So, in addition to J.O. Sanders, as we mentioned before, I mean, this film centers on the three sisters, Carrie Coon, Elizabeth Olsen, and Natasha Lyonne. I know you alluded to this. I know you wrote it with them in mind. Did you not? I'm trying to remember if I heard you correctly. Did you not have any sort of plan B if any of them said no?
No plan B. And Giovanna Depo, who plays Benji as well. So I
Right.
wrote with the four of them in mind. I wrote with Rodrigo Morante, who scored the film, in
Mm.
mind. I wrote for a New York City apartment, not that specific one, but
Right.
definitely a New York City apartment complex in
Mm-hmm.
mind that looked very much like that, so that you could see, you'd always be able to see apartments right out the window that you could know that this is just one of the many stories that's happening
Right.
simultaneously in this complex. Um, I was, if I remember correctly, we were still shooting on tail end of COVID, so I was writing with a situation where COVID wouldn't be happening as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of things that were kind of unknown, but I just didn't really come up with a plan B
Yeah.
of, I knew that we'd all be packed in a room and that we'd have to just be able to be very close and be stuck together, and that there would be, and that was the other thing too, there was actually no windows for anything to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There was no like extra days, or we're going
Yeah.
to stop production for a few days, which was happening a lot while I was writing, but it was just a real leap of hope.
Yeah. And I mean, with that trio, I mean, it's hard to imagine a trio of actresses right now who feel more kind of collectively at the height of their powers. I mean, Carrie Coon just getting off White Lotus, and also had the Gilded Age when this was coming out. Natasha Lyonne about to have Poker Face come back. Elizabeth Olsen has The Assessment coming, and you have these three sort of titans in one room for 17 days essentially. I mean, what is that like for you from a director's standpoint to kind of get these three powerful, incredibly intelligent actors and they're all ready to go and they're with you like you had hoped from day one? I mean, to be in the room with that, I mean, that must be pretty special.
Exciting,
Yeah.
exciting. The thing is too is that I too have been working for a long time, so that they
Hmm.
weren't coming with just like a leap of faith as me, as
Right.
though I hope I'm a whatever, they liked my work. And so there was definitely, there's like, it's not like I had a any type of foresight. Like, I chose three absolutely incredible actors to write for. So
Hmm.
that's, I think, many filmmakers are doing that. Um, in this case, I also wrote for three actors that I have a direct relationship with one way or another. So I knew that
Mm.
I was going to be able to send them and reach out to them directly and not go through and explain to them the way that I was planning, where this was coming from, and that I had written for them, including Jovan, that I had written it directly for them. So
Hmm.
there was a accessibility to each of them that I felt confident. I also felt confident that they love films the same way that I do, and so that they would see, hopefully, that this where this was coming from, that this was not only me just trying to deal with a human story, but also just kind of celebrate what we do in a certain
Hmm.
way, shooting on film, shooting in an actual location, shooting in order. These are all things that I wrote to them, and I wrote simultaneously to each of them and told them who I was sending it to. Even though they were fans of each other, they didn't know each other. They had to cross paths with each other.
Yeah.
They really just, but it wasn't surprising to find out that they all were like, oh, yeah, that's incredible. Um, Jovan actually was like the biggest link because he had both been in The Leftovers and also in Sorry for Your
Oh,
Loss.
okay.
So both Carrie, that was the link between Carrie and Lizzie, is
I
that they
had not
both were.
caught that.
Yeah, so I had worked with Lizzie and Jovan on Sorry for Your Loss, and that's where I really was introduced to Jovan and started thinking about him with that, anything that came into mind, and one of the reasons I was writing for him directly for that part. Um, but I knew that uh, that they were all separately close. Like,
Yeah.
they're that they adored Javon individually, and vice versa. So that was kind of um, a bridge between. And then Carrie Coon, I had, gotten to know through working on The Lovers with Tracy Letts, and
Mm,
also knew that she appreciated my work. And I mean, the one thing is that I felt confident that what I was offering them wasn't being offered elsewhere,
yeah.
and that was worth something.
Yeah. I mean, we should mention too, I mean, we 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 love these actors and you love these actors and they did, I mean, we can both acknowledge they did great work in your film and they do great work in other things as well. But this film did win the Robert Altman Award at the Independent Spirit Awards just a couple months ago, actually, which is, for those who don't know, an award given every year since I think '06 or '07. At the Spirits to kind of it's not really like, I guess it's not really best ensemble, but it's given to an ensemble cast and casting director and the director of a film. For, past winners like A Serious Man or Please Give. Last year's was Kelly Reichardt's Showing Up. When did you find out that this film was earning this specific accolade, and how did it feel for
Oh,
you to be getting this one? Because I feel like this is a big one.
yeah, that was a really special one too, because it meant that we had done the touring with the film and traveled and promoted it, and then all of a sudden, we were pretty much on the other side of that, and then we could come together,
Mm,
like for one kind of last time, all to and stand up there, and Altman was somebody that all of us involved love and was inspired, and especially in this film, like I try to bring what elements I could, which was like just even the whole idea of me working with a composer in the way that I did all came from from how Altman would do. And also also I also opened up the edit for any of the actors that if they wanted to come in, that they are welcome to come into the edit. And that all
mm,
came from me just like having this idea that um just knowing how all had hearing how and reading how all had worked. So there was this spirit that I really tried to embrace at the very beginning, and suddenly that spirit I felt like was being recognized. I'm pretty sure we learned it exactly when it was announced. I don't think
yeah.
there was anything. It's a kind of I don't know who was even in the selection committee. I think they kind of just and keep it quiet, and they don't actually do it every year. So
Oh,
they
okay.
just decide, I guess, when something is. And I always thought that also just in terms of like the whole kind of award thing, it was always going to be pretty complicated because I see all three of them as leads and essential to each other's performances. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of confusing to me how you're supposed to, distinguish one than the other because in this
Hmm.
case, whoever's on frame is really, really working off whoever's off frame. And they were always there for each other,
Hmm.
regardless of who was on frame. So it felt like a team spirit, and that award really felt like it was, these awards is you can only take them that far because
Right.
it's the work ultimately. But in that case, it felt very, very special to get it. It felt for me, and I'm just speaking for myself, it felt like the kind of the highest aim that or like is the kind of the best way to be recognized
Yeah.
if I was gonna, aim for anything or hope for something. So and it was cool to stand up there. It was really, really nice to just kind of hold each other. There's
Mm.
if you ever watch the video of it, there's this moment which I didn't see when it was happening, but that the three of them walk up together. They all kind of find each other's hands and walk up together. And that's just like,
Yeah.
that's that's the that's the hope that a
Yeah.
film can leave that kind of a year or so later that there's that still connection between them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so many things because it's nice to get as you say, it's kind of nice to get an award that honors all of them and everyone kind of equally because it kind of feels appropriate for this kind of film. Um, it's nice to be in, I mean, that's really good company. Coen Brothers, Hall of Center, Reichardt, like that, that's excellent company. And then there's the Robert Altman of it all. So, I mean,
And Nicola Busto, just to, who has been working, she's the casting director that I've been working with
mm-hmm,
for since 2010, so for a very long time. But I think there's a whole different challenge when I'm, I reach out to her and I say, okay, so these are the lead, these roles I wrote for her, and they all said yes, and these four guys, and so now how do we balance them with people that can meet to their level and
mm-hmm.
also complement them and also bring in something new and bring something different? Like how do we that it's like giving almost a fully formed world, but with essentially missing buildings
Yeah,
that have to be that she had to be and that she was essential and bring forth. So like J.O. Sanders is like a perfect example. Like that's somebody I didn't know. I didn't have a father in mind. I met with quite a few different and saw and read through different and auditioned through, but that was just a really really great call
yeah.
from Nicole. And so the moment that I did sit down with Jay, I was like, oh yeah, this is right. But she saw that before I did, just
Yeah.
by thinking of him.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because like you say, you had those four roles essentially cast on your own, but they're not the only people in the movie. So it's like fitting pieces into, yeah, like into a pre-established ecosystem, which is a whole different game than I would think, casting from the ground up. So, um, I mean, you mentioned that, you've been working a while and that these women and, the whole cast probably, they respected your work and didn't like, it's not like you were coming from nowhere. You've worked with great people. I mean, you mentioned Tracy Letts in The Lovers, which also starred Deborah Winger, which is pretty amazing because she doesn't even do a lot of films anymore. And yours is one of them, which is pretty cool. Um, John C. Reilly, Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, now these three women, you've had so many good people. I mean, are you ever surprised still when someone says yes? I mean, is it still like a nice, delightful surprise?
Oh yeah, and I also know well, the one thing that's happened is I've learned also how to embrace no's. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've come to really trust uh people when they say no
Yeah.
to that they know something that I don't.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wouldn't say I would have felt in the beginning. You just like, oh, they obviously don't get what this is gonna be. But it's looking back, wow, they really did know that that was the wrong person because this person was the right person or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the way it is. So it's sometimes when I go to talk with an actor, it's like a halfway thing. It's not so much that I'm thinking like, um, oh, they're a little bit different in this case because I wrote with them. I just didn't. I felt like if they said yes, that they were the right ones for this, and I think I'm kind of similar. Go with that in mind, and if they say no, then I was probably wrong in
Mm.
this case. Not that that they're making a mistake,
Yeah.
but there's been just and each of those actors that you mentioned, John, Deborah Winger, and Michelle Pfeiffer, I just the the amount that I learned from each of those experiences, I really try to carry with me because these actors that work so much more than any director. They've had so much more experience, and there's just so many things that they carry with them
Mm-hmm.
that I found really, really helpful, just in terms of learning how to prepare, to approach, how to answer questions, what questions that don't need answering. Um, I try my best, and if there's anything that I'm doing now, is try to take stock of what just happened and how to utilize what was actually wound up on screen and was helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and let go of the things that may have just been kind of a unnecessary or wasted energy.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell from just speaking with you now and from even watching your films that you are someone who, in your own life, devoid of being a director, I think really loves actors and really respects the craft. I think that comes through in the films as well as what you're saying. Do you remember any sort of the most influential actors or performances for you when you were kind of discovering your love of film or kind of figuring out your voice?
Well, let's see. I mean, I did have that kind of very common, uh, I think, system of just the seeing Cassavetes films for the first time and
Mm,
just not believing what I was seeing. Did not know that that was possible. Did not know that a film like that existed. I was a projectionist at a movie theater here in New York City. I was about 19 years old when there was a Cassavetes retrospective, and um, each day a different actor came in from one of the films. So Jenna Rollins and Seema Cassell and Ben Gazzara, they all came in, and I was 19 and I was meeting them for the first time and
wow.
bringing them to the stage, and then would watch the films generally after they left. And so I had the keys to the theater, and so I could project them with some friends. And so we'd watch it around midnight. And I just was just kind of stunned about
Yeah.
every part of it. And then to get to see these people kind of in the flesh and think, wow, they're yeah, they're movie stars, but they're there's just a sense of human, and the humanity that I was witnessing on the screen was like here they were in their flesh and just in the type of theater and where it was, and just the kind of um the hustle of it all,
Hmm.
it felt so kind of grounded, and it felt so accessible in that way that I always, that love I love about punk rock. It's like that thing
Mm,
where you go like, and I can't, this is magic, but I can reach for it.
mm.
Um, where a lot of films that I would see either were where I grew up, my father's an experimental filmmaker, and those films like felt, yeah, I could reach for them, but it wasn't totally my calling. And then there was other films that just felt like, uh, Hollywood films that also I just couldn't think of reaching for. And I don't think were inspiring me in the way that when I first saw these kind of independent films, the Cassavetes films, where I thought, oh, there's a space in between that kind of answers all these things, the kind of truth that I
Yeah.
was seeing in my father's world, and at the same time the kind of magic that I was seeing in some of the bigger Hollywood films, that they were kind of colliding in this way that I felt like, oh, there's a space for me. So that was a big one. I will tell you,
Mm.
just because we're talking about actors that we're working with, um, there's not a ton of actors that I've been starstruck with, but when I wound up working on Mozart in the Jungle, working with Bernadette Peters, she
Oh,
was
wow.
somebody
Yeah.
that I just grown up loving Pennies from Heaven, Jerk, and just really just loving her, everything about her, her voice, and just like, and then suddenly working on her on these scenes and just seeing how quickly her and Malcolm McDowell, they would just bring in
Yeah.
so much just thing. They brought so much of themselves so quickly and took what and ran with it, any ideas, and they were also so open to me. And if anything, like I don't think they had seen anything I done, but they were welcoming and inviting, and there was a sense of like jamming, like in a way. And at the same time, I truly was more starstruck than she would. I could not really raise my eyes to her because I just couldn't believe that this was the Bernadette Peters. So
Right.
I still kind of like have that feeling with it's this kind of mixture of where somebody feels like a total like unreachable, but yet here they are waiting on my word about how we're going to potentially approach a scene.
Yeah.
Um, there's I still get that feeling sometimes,
Yeah.
which is just like a feeling like I'm very fortunate to be working with the actors that I have been able to.
Yeah. I mean, it must feel sort of out of body, incredible mix of many things when you show up and you have Bernadette Peters there and she's very eagerly like, waiting for your call or like, waiting to know what you want. And that's amazing. That must be really strange, but amazing at the same time.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've been very fortunate, somewhat by design and somewhat by just happenstance, is I worked with a lot of actors that are game, that they're game for it and that are up for it and up for kind of uh, trying to prodding or pushing into whatever directions and seeing, okay, I hear what you're saying and I think I can interpret this way.
Hmm.
Um, and with his two daughters, it was a different thing because I felt very confident about the script and the actors felt very confident and they connected with the script and there was a decision very early on to not change anything in the script. So
Hmm.
then it really had to do with everything else that
Yeah.
comes with how do you say those lines, where you're coming from, not only physically and emotionally, um, just how you're working together and how this is working with how the camera is going to move and
Yeah.
how the daylight that we're losing and the time frame that we have. There was so much that suddenly with those confines that these actors would bring in, and I thought I was also kind of just in marvel the whole time, just what they could do,
Yeah.
how much they could stretch it and bring it in these other dimensions that I could only hope for.
Yeah. I had a note about that as well, asking about sort of how much of the interiority of these characters comes from you and how much comes from your actors. And I feel like in a film like this, like you're saying, with the confines, with the fact that the script pretty much stayed as it was, I would guess kind of a lot. I would imagine you invited that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I would answer questions if they came up,
Hmm.
and all the actors worked very, very differently.
Hmm.
There was once I decided where people's rooms were the father's rooms, and where people were coming from, that would answer a lot of the questions because it was just like, okay, this person's over here, and this person, there's just being packed in a room, or packed in a house that would kind of force certain situations. Um, that I was very, very specific about how I was going to cover each scene before shooting. So I would explain that. So
Hmm.
they would also know, like, okay, there's actually not going to be any close up over here, or there's not going to be a two shot here.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted I wanted the film to have the specific, be as specific as it is, which was that there's just truly nothing that was going to be arbitrary or decided later on. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to cover myself in that way.
Yeah.
And they embraced that, and then they would figure out, okay, how to make that work and in their own particular way and how the characters would.
Well, I feel like watching it, you could feel it's a real sort of team effort kind of film, with everyone just sort of firing on all cylinders and trying to capture this very intimate story as intimately as possible. I mean, it does kind of feel like you're there, which I know is kind of a cliche, but uh, it really does, and I think that's a testament to probably every person involved in a situation in a film like this.
You, I do, I do appreciate hearing that, and I really, I really feel that way when I watch this film. Feel I see each of them, and I see a lot of myself, but I also see a lot of the people in my life that have meant a lot and that I'm trying to hold on to in some form or another in
Yeah.
telling the story.
Switching gears for a second before we have to get out of here. I know you probably can't talk too much about this, but I know that one of your next projects lined up is the animated series Gossamer, which you
Oh, I could
are.
talk all about
Oh, you
that.
can? I
That
don't
was,
know.
oh yeah, well, that was shot a while ago. I
Okay.
don't, um,
It's not out. It's not out yet.
no, it's not
Okay.
out because the company that who was making it with, I wound up shooting that during COVID, which
Okay.
is a whole other story. But yeah, that was being produced by a company that is no longer. So I do not
Oh.
know any status whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
A lot of kind of really amazing, it's all animated, so it was all motion capture and working with motion capture actors, and it was just kind of totally something new,
Yeah.
thrilling that I hadn't done. I definitely felt like it was. I mean, it's a whole other story, but I think it was really helpful in terms of just approaching his three daughters because it's all one, you're shooting all in one room.
True.
And we're shooting during COVID. I'm shooting all through Zoom, so I have to be very, very specific. Each of the motion capture actors are playing all these different characters, so
hmm
you're kind of redoing the scenes from all these different uh, perspectives, and you're talking about how to, even though the voices are going to change and
hmm
all the stuff, you're still talking about how to for these act. And there is an amazing troupe of motion capture actors that I think because of COVID, they were on Avatar, and so that had shut down. So they came back to LA. So
Oh.
I wound up working with this kind of incredible group that would learn how to express, the emotions of the characters just through this walk or that walk, and com total fabrication. And it was. I hope that it continues to seize the light of the day, but I just don't have any idea. But that was, yeah, a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
I didn't realize it was a couple years ago. Yeah, I hope it does too, because it sounded like a really interesting excursion for pretty much everyone involved. I mean, is this the first time you've worked in animation?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I wound up doing two animated series for them. And
Okay.
so both of them, I have no idea what
Yeah.
the situation is, but a lot of fun for me. Now, the
Yeah.
next thing that you'll be able to see, I wound up directing an episode of a show that's coming out next month called The Better Sister,
Okay.
starring Elizabeth Banks and Jessica Biel, and that's a thriller. So it was also
Okay.
something that I really hadn't ever done before, but had a kind of just a great time and loved working with the actors that I wound up working with on that show.
Yeah. I mean, again, working with, because yeah, even in your television work, which we didn't get into too much, between that and Sorry for Your Loss and Doll and M, R.A.P. Doll and M. Even in TV, you work with such good people. So yeah, that's exciting. I didn't know about that one, so that's exciting for me to hear about.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully you'll check
Um,
it out.
yeah, and that's actually coming out next month, so we can we
Yeah,
can watch that.
yeah.
That sucks about Gossamer because I saw the voice cast too, and I was like, oh, that's so good.
Amazing, amazing,
Forrest
amazing. Just a
Whitaker,
great,
Thomas and
yeah,
Mackenzie, Vera
yeah,
Farmiga.
yeah. It was
Um,
really, I hope that, I don't know
yeah,
how it works with the animated world because
yeah,
does it get picked up by somebody? It's not like a film that's already, I mean, I think a lot of it is done, but I just have
yeah,
no idea. It's so far
yeah.
from me. I came in to get to record those voices with those actors that you mentioned, and
Mm.
that was just kind of very, very cool to see people stand in a booth and suddenly uh, become these characters the way that they did. So
Yeah, and not people
hopefully,
who are
fingers,
known for voice acting either. So that's kind of cool too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a special one. So
hmm
maybe
Yeah.
maybe the
Sidebar, I hope Vera Farmiga directs another film someday. I
yeah,
don't, I always think about Higher Ground as it's such a good film, and whenever I see her name, I'm like, I want,
yeah.
I want her to keep going
Well, hopefully that's a yeah. I
someday.
yeah.
Um, Before we leave, I just want to quickly ask, since you are both because you are a filmmaker and a film lover, I am curious what the last film you saw in theaters that you really loved was.
In theaters. Okay,
Mm,
hold on. This was very recent.
okay. I don't know. I don't think I know anything about that.
Second. Really enjoyed Gazer, um, which is out in theaters right now. I wound up doing the Q&A for that.
Oh, cool.
So that's a first time filmmakers independent film that Metrograph Pictures uh, is coming out with. So that's probably the most recent. I know that Harold and Maude is playing tomorrow, so I was thinking about going to see that again. I'm trying to, yeah, I'm the most recent thing that I've just watched because it just wasn't in the theaters was Adolescence, which I just thought was incredible.
Mm,
Really, still kind of stunned by that. So yeah, that's probably the most recent was last week. I think a film called Gazer. At least that's the one that's coming to me.
all right. Cool. I know I need to get myself to a theater more often. There's always things coming by, and I'm like, I want to go, and then it leaves in like a week, and I miss it. So I have to get myself
Is there
out
a
there
good
more.
theater in Connecticut where you are?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
There was a pretty decent one in New Haven, but it's closed now, unfortunately. I don't know if it closed during the pandemic or before, but that one used to be like where I would go as a central Connecticut resident, not being close enough really to New York to take advantage of that. That would be where I would go when I wanted to see something that, kind of no one else in the state was running. Like they had like very small projection room for the really deep cut independent films. Like I saw Kelly Reichardt's Night Moves in theater there. And I think that was like the only theater in the state playing that film, but it's gone now, so I can't utilize that anymore. So now I rely on like AMC's, which sometimes show cool things, and then other times I
Yeah.
feel like I have to go really far away. But
But I hope you keep going far away. I do think that I'm so grateful. I've been really noticing the people that show up. I think I went to something, uh, I went to see some, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I went to see, like a 1930s film not that long ago at the Film Forum on like a very rainy Tuesday.
mm,
And I was just the film was okay. Um, But I was so impressed with this. The people, it was a full theater, and I was like, wow,
yeah,
this is I'm in the right town.
yeah. Yeah, there is also a theater I'm just remembering too, at Trinity University up in Hartford, Connecticut, that they have like a beautiful theater and will show film prints, which is nice. Um, I saw Roma there on film, which was nice. Um, but yeah,
Well,
it's tough out
yeah,
here.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching out about this film, and I
Yeah,
hope we get to continue talking about. Yeah, I hope the world continues, and we get to keep
I
talking
hope
about
so
art.
too. Yeah, I know. Crossing my fingers over here.
Let's cross our fingers.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Azazel, for talking to
Of
me for a
course.
while. It's been really fun.
Thank,
Thank you.
Same. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.